Hi, this is Ajay Anand and welcome to Science Classes from excelup.com. In this lesson, you will learn about flowers. This lesson has been taken from class 11th biology, and since it's from class 11, so obviously we will read about flowers in greater details than whatever you have been reading till now. Okay, so till now you must have read about different parts of flowers like calyx, corolla, Enrosium and gynosium, and you must have read about the main function of a flower. Okay, now what is a flower? A flower is a modified shoot. So what happens? The normal function of a shoot or stem is conduction of mineral and water, but once it is modified into flower, its function changes. Now the function becomes reproduction. So what happens? The shoot apical meristem, it changes to floral meristem. So the function of apical meristem is to promote growth by way of cell division. Now once it becomes the floral meristem, it will give rise to a flower. So once a shoot apical meristem becomes a floral meristem, what happens? Internodes, they do not elongate, which happens in the normal course. Now the axis gets condensed because it has to produce flower, and the apex produces different floral appendages laterally. So different floral appendages means different parts of flowers like sepals, petals, stamens. Okay, so they are produced laterally from the floral meristem. Okay, now what happens when a shoot tip transforms into a flower? It is always solitary. So if the flower is arising out from the nodes, then the flowers can be in bunches. But if a flower is coming from the tip of a stem, the flower will be a solitary one. So that is the key difference. Now if flowers are in arrangement, then we need to understand about the various ways of their arrangement, and different ways in which flowers are arranged on the main axis or rachis, which is the modified stem now. This is called inflorescence. There are two types of inflorescence: racemose inflorescence and cymose inflorescence. Racemose inflorescence is also called indeterminate inflorescence because the growth of flowers does not stop in this case. So new flowers keep on coming on the main axis. Cymose inflorescence is called determinate because there is a terminal flower, and with that the main axis stops to grow. So that is why growth is limited. In this case, the main axis continues to grow because there is no terminal flower. So what happens in this case? This is the terminal bud. It keeps on growing and flowers keeps on coming. So for example, say now if the terminal bud had been here, flowers they emerge from the lateral portions. After that, terminal bud grows further, giving rise to more flowers. So what happens? Terminal bud keeps on growing and it gives rise to more and more flowers. So that is why it is indeterminate types. In this case, it is called acropetal succession. What happens in case of acropetal succession? The flowers at the base, they mature earlier than the flowers at the top, because these flowers they grow earlier than the flowers at the top. In case of cymose inflorescence, the succession is called basipetal succession because flowers at the top they mature earlier than the flowers at the bottom, and this has been shown by relative sizes of these diagrammatic flowers. So these are bigger compared to these smaller flowers at the bottom. In this case, the flowers at the bottom they are bigger compared to those at the top. Okay. Position of floral parts on thalamus. Thalamus is the base of the flower on which different floral parts they originate. Okay. Now, with relation to the position of ovary, the position of remaining parts of flowers can be different, and based on this factor, there are three types of position of ovary. One is called hypogynous, then perigynous and epigynous. In case of hypogynous, ovary is superior, which means that remaining floral parts they originate from a position which is below the position of ovary. So, gynosium gets the highest position. So, this is gynosium, this is stamen, this is petal, and these are sepals. So, all of them they are below the ovary. That is why we call it superior ovary. In case of perigynous, the gynosium is at more or less same level compared to remaining floral parts. So, this is gynosium, these are stamens, and these are petals, these are sepals. In case of epigynous condition, what happens? Ovary sinks below and the thalamus almost encapsulates the ovary. So, in this case, the remaining floral parts they arise way above the position of gynosium. So, this is stamen, this is petal, and this is sepal. So, in this case, we say that ovary is inferior. So, ovary is superior, hypogynous, ovary is half inferior, perigynous, and ovary is inferior, then it is called epigynous. Parts of flower. So, you have already read in your junior classes that there are different whorls of flower, and from outside to center they are known as calyx, corolla, Enrosium and gynosium. Petals are the individual parts of calyx, sepals. Petals are the individual parts of corolla, and stamens are the individual part of Enrosium. Ovaries they are individual parts of gynosium. Now, petals can be free or they can be united. So, if petals are free, the condition is called polypetalous. If sepals are free, then condition is called polysepalous. If they are united, then condition is called gamosepalous and gamopetalous. So, in this case, sepals they are free. So, this is polysepalous, but petals are united. They are making a tube-like structure. So, you can observe in many flowers. Okay. In this case, sepals are united. So, this is a gamosepalous flower, but petals they are free. So, this is a polypetalous condition. This can be seen in many flowers. Estivation, this is also an important term, and this will help you in studying about various families of angiosperm in the later part of this chapter. So, estivation is the arrangement of sepals or petals in relation to each other. Okay, and there are four types: valvate, twisted, imbricate, and vexillary. When sepal or petals they are arranged in a way that there is no overlapping among them, then this condition is called valvate. So, this is the diagrammatic representation of top view. So, these are petals, there is no overlapping. So, this is valvate. This is the side view. This will give you a better picture. Example is calotropis. When sepals or petals they overlap one another, and this overlapping is in a particular sequence. So, this one is overlapping this one, this is overlapping the next one, this is overlapping the next one, and so on. This condition is called twisted. This is the side view. Examples are okra and cotton. Now, when overlapping is there, but there is no particular order of overlapping. So, what happens? This particular petal is overlapping two of the petals. These are three are overlapping just one petals, but this does not overlap any of the petals. Okay, so there is no particular order. This condition is called imbricate. Examples are cassia, and gulmohar. Now there is a special case where there are 5 petals or 5 sepals. So one of them is the largest, then 2 are somewhat smaller, and the third one is much smaller. So what happens, the largest one, it overlaps the 2 petals in this way, and the smallest one, it is being overlapped by the remaining 2 of the medium size. Okay, so this condition is called vexillary. Example is P. Or you can see many flowers of leguminous plants which have this sort of estivation. Enrosium. Enrosium is composed of stamens, and a stamen has a stalk and a lobe, a capsule at the top. The capsule has 2 lobes, and each lobe has 2 chambers. So there are 4 chambers in an antheridium. Okay, and these are the chambers where pollen grains are produced. There is a condition when stamen can be sterile, and in such a case, the stamen is called staminode. The stamen is sterile, it does not produce pollen grains, so it cannot take part in reproduction. Now, stamens, they can be either free, they can be attached to perianth, and in some flowers, stamens are attached to petals. So if the stamens are attached to petals, the condition is called epipetalous. If they are attached to perianth, then the condition is called epiphyllous. Okay, so in case of a flower of datura and brinjal, you can find epipetalous condition. Stamens can be free from each other, so in that case they are called polyandrous. In some flowers, the stamen can form a group, and the condition is called synandrous. If the condition is synandrous, there are various types. One is called monoadelphous, then diadelphous, and polyadelphous. When all the stamens, they form a single group in the flower, the condition is called monoadelphous. For example, in China rose and in some other flowers, when the stamens form 2 groups, so usually there is a group of more than 1 stamens, and there is another group of a single stamen. So this condition is called diadelphous. When there are more than 2 groups of stamens, then the condition is called polyadelphous. Okay. Gynosium. Now, even gynosium can be single or it can be in groups. So if there is a single gynosium, the condition is called monocarpous. If there is more than 1 gynosium, then the condition is called apocarpous. If there are more than 1 gynosium and all of them, they are fused together, then this is called syncarpous. These figures are give the transverse section view of monocarpous, apocarpous, and syncarpous condition. So there is a single gynosium, there are more than 1, but all of them, they are separate. There are more than 1 gynosium, but all of them, they are bunched in a group, they are not separate. Okay. Now another important term comes, and that is called placentation. Placentation is the arrangement of ovules in the ovary. Okay, so there are different types. One is called marginal, this is axial, this is parietal, this is free central, and this is basal. So what happens in case of marginal placentation? The placenta, it forms a ridge along the ventral suture. Suture means the sieving, the dictionary meaning is sieving. So the line along which the ovules, the ovary meets, this is called the ventral suture. Okay, and on that line there are 2 rows of ovules. So for example, a pea plant. So if we will split open a pea pod, you will find this type of arrangement. So some of the seeds, they will go in one half, and remaining seed they will go into another half. This shows that there are two alternate rows of ovules. In case of exile, what happens? There is multilocular ovary. So there are many locules of the ovary, and there is a central axis going through the center of the ovary, and the ovules, they are attached to the central axis, and that is why this condition is called exile. Examples are China rose, tomato, lemon, oranges. In case of parietal placentation, the ovules, they are attached to the periphery. So here it was attached at the center, now these are attached at the periphery. Examples are mustard and argemone. In some cases, there can be false septum in case of parietal placentation, as happens in case of mustard and argemone. In case of free central placentation, the ovules are at the central axis, but there is no septum, there is no participation. So ovule is not multilocular, it is called, you can say it is unilocular. Okay. Examples are dianthus, primrose. In case of basal placentation, the ovule is at the base, there is a single ovule at the base of the ovary. Okay. An example is sunflower and marigold. That's all for this lesson. Thank you.